Alright, what's good, y'all? Today I am going to be reacting to one of my favorite basketball creators in JXMY. He made a video called "We Just Witnessed One of the Greatest Seasons of All Time." He's going to be talking about the Oklahoma City Thunder, who are our most recent NBA champions, and breaking them down. He is the type of guy that really brings in statistics and bringing in all types of graphs. So this video will be very interesting to people who enjoy that kind of stuff, that kind of nerdy stuff like I do. But without further ado, let's get into it.
I'd be lying if I said we didn't see this coming. A 68-win record-setting team who's been the overwhelming favorite to win the title this season for practically the entire season, winning the title. This is not an underdog story, or one riddled with ups and downs capped off with an improbable rise to glory. But it should have been. One of the youngest teams in the league with relatively little experience aiming for a prize their franchise has only come within reaching distance of once before. Instead, this was a 100-game slaughter, a season of blowouts, absurd margins, awards, and shattered records. Instead, this was a 100-game slaughter, a season of blowouts, absurd margins.
They were really doing the Grizzlies so wrong in the first round, to the point where I don't even know why Ja Morant even thought to say that he had figured them out. Like, getting beat by 50 at any point in a game is absurd, but getting beat by 50 in a playoff game is inexcusable.
Awards, and shattered records. A season so dominant that skepticism turned into optimism, which quickly became expectation. And yet the 2025 OKC Thunder didn't just meet those expectations, they obliterated all of them. Because the Thunder aren't just champions, they have now completed one of the greatest seasons of all time.
It's my boy.
Today's video is sponsored by SeatGeek. Whether you're looking for concert tickets or the best seats
I'm gonna
at
let
the
him
game,
get his
SeatGeek
promo
has it all.
off.
The #1 rated ticketing app with over 28 million downloads. On SeatGeek, there are more than 70,000 listed events, from sports to concerts to festivals and more. For years now, I've been exclusively using SeatGeek to find the best tickets for everything, including my Blazers, where I can browse seating, search for tickets, and get the best deals. And with every ticket backed by their buyer guarantee, once I buy my ticket, I know I'm good to go. And right now, you can get 10% off any tickets by downloading the SeatGeek app and using the promo code Jimmy10. Just click the link in the description to download the app and have the code automatically added to your account to use at any time. That's promo code Jimmy10 for 10% off any tickets, only on SeatGeek. Throughout the history of the NBA, 79 different teams have been crowned champions. 79 teams that beat the odds and achieved basketball immortality. But even among champions, there's an even more exclusive club. Teams that didn't just win a title, but set entirely new standards on what is achievable in a single season. Of these 79 title-winning teams, only 8 of them achieved these 3 key metrics: a net rating of at least 10, an average margin of victory of at least 10, and at least 65 wins throughout the regular season. Those teams are the 71 Bucks, the 72 Lakers, the 92, 96, and 97 Bulls, the 08 Celtics, the 2015 Warriors, and the 2017 Warriors. These 8 teams are basketball royalty. So dominant that winning a championship was more of a victory lap than it was a testament to just how great they were. And without exception, all of these teams are regarded as the greatest teams or single seasons in NBA history. And now, a 9th team has been added to this exclusive club: the 2025 OKC Thunder. But to say they have simply entered this club would actually be an understatement, because throughout the 2025 season, the Thunder finished with the 6th best record of all time, the 2nd highest net rating of all time, and the largest margin of victory in the history.
So teams they finished just behind record-wise. Of course, 73-9 Warriors, MJ's Bulls from the second run. Then we got early Lakers. I'm pretty sure this is just a little bit before Showtime, because that was in the 80s. I think there's like Elgin in them. And then we got Wilt's 76ers, if I'm not mistaken. For this team to be this young, just being in this category is already insane. But for them to also do that while dominating teams on both sides of the ball, crazy.
Of the league. By all measurable accounts,
and they really only made 2
Thunder
moves.
Have asserted themselves among some of the greatest seasons in the history of the league. In fact, they weren't just beating everyone. The Thunder spent the last 9 months completely eviscerating teams. In the NBA, a 20-point victory is cited as a blowout. On 29 different occasions, nearly a third of all of their games this season, the Thunder were up on their opponents by 20 points or more by the end of the third quarter, which means 1 in every 3 games was already deemed a blowout before the fourth quarter even started. As the season progressed, the rapidly approaching realization that this team may just be having one of the greatest seasons of all time became clearer with each monumental beatdown. The MVP and scoring champion, a 23-year-old All-NBA guard by his side. Not 1, but 2 all-defensive juggernauts. A rotation so deep, you'd swear they just subbed in another starting unit.
2 all-defensive players is disrespectful because they could have had an entire lineup of them with people like Caruso missing, Case and Wallace missing. Shea could have got in on something. Chet didn't meet the games requirement because of his injury. Like, just them having 2 all-defense selections doesn't do this team justice for real.
It didn't take an analyst to know we were watching something special. In fact, by the time the playoffs rolled around, a very uncomfortable conversation quickly followed.
They are 4 wins away, Demonze, from one of the single greatest seasons in NBA history.
Like, they've won 79 games between the regular season and the playoffs. They could be as extravagant and arrogant as they wish. They just aren't.
Are we seeing the potential of an all-time great team here?
The NBA should be worried.
Is this team truly one of the greatest teams ever? Or at the very least, are they having one of the greatest seasons ever? A dialogue that was routinely and justifiably shot down every time it came up. To even enter that discussion, they first had to win a championship, something that we've seen countless good teams fall short of. But not this one. Checking the final box on a season that is now certainly in that rare and exceptional group. But of all the things this Thunder team has in common with the greats that came before it, how they managed to pull it off is what sets them apart. Among the requirements of nearly every championship team are talent, depth, defense, execution, and experience. After all, the one glaring hole in OKC's armor going into the playoffs was their lack of it. The regular season and the postseason have become so disconnected in recent years that winning 68 games in historic fashion isn't nearly convincing enough if you haven't proven yourself in the playoffs. And as we all know, the road to a championship usually takes years, with countless casualties along the way. Players coming and going, heartbreak, entire roster identities changing in search for a winning formula. But this team didn't just win it all. They won it way faster than they should have. Over the last 30 seasons, the average age across the NBA is about 26.8 years old. Throughout that same time span, the average age of championship-winning rosters is about 2 years older at 28.8 years old. Championship rosters are usually comprised of players with more experience, they're more battle-tested, and in many cases have spent years falling short of a championship before they finally achieve their ultimate goal. The 2025 Thunder being the exception, with an average roster age of just 24.8 years old. By far, the youngest team to win a title in nearly 50 years. In fact, most championship teams don't even have a single player, let alone an entire roster this young getting minutes in the playoffs. So not only have the Thunder just put together one of the most complete and dominant seasons the league has ever seen, they did it about 4 years ahead of schedule. So what is next for a team that essentially checked off every single box in a season?
To do it again.
They can do it again. Over the last few days, the word dynasty has been thrown around, what it means to be a dynasty and what it takes to build one. But if the current era of the NBA has taught us anything, it's that dynasties might just be a thing of the past. Every generation has seen at least one of these teams, whether it was the Celtics and the Lakers in the 80s, the Bulls of the 90s, the Lakers and Spurs in the 2000s, and the Warriors in the 2010s. And they have played a pivotal role throughout NBA history. At least they did, up until recently. Since 2019, the NBA has seen a different champion every year. 7 different teams across 7 seasons. The longest span of unique title winners in NBA history. As if winning a championship wasn't difficult enough, winning another one is magnitudes more difficult. And in recent times, it has become nearly impossible. With every team that shows signs of building something that will truly last, comes the stark reminder that it probably won't. Players seeking greener pastures, a championship run often bringing out the egos in everyone involved. They lose sight of the team. Sometimes it...
Nah, Kyrie's is crazy because he looked that kid in his eyes and said he was going to be a Cavalier. He said he was going to be a Cavalier for life. And went to Boston. And then he did the same thing in Boston and then went to Brooklyn. Crazy, man.
They lose sight of the team. Sometimes it can simply be a logistical
Also,
nightmare to keep a winning team. They lose sight of...
Shout out John Wall's extension.
of the team. Sometimes it can simply be a logistical nightmare to keep a winning team together. Injuries can throw off timelines, young players get too expensive, old players
Kawhi should have stayed in Toronto, man. We could have went back to back.
A whole lot faster than you would ever expect. Which means one of two things is true. Either we are truly in the era of parity and analytics, the speed of information, modern day roster constructions, and the depth of talent has made it virtually impossible to build a lead on the competition, or there will be a dynasty of the 20s. We just haven't seen it yet, but we may be looking at one in the making. In a league where talent is a rotating door and assets are thrown around like cheap commodities,
all these moves happened this week.
Unconventional route to a title, actually developing players and building from within. Roster continuity is an ever-increasing point of emphasis in the NBA today. Recent history has shown that the once viable method of building top-heavy super teams centered around a couple of superstar talents with little to no supporting cast was a failing model. The smartest organizations around the league shifted their focus away from acquiring top-end talent at any cost to the more traditional and sustainable model of developing players from within and acquiring pieces based on fit rather than sheer talent. And no team has mastered the art of drafting, developing, and fit better than the Thunder have. Since 2019, the average roster continuity among championship teams, essentially how much a team stayed the same from one season to the next, was about 61%. That means, on average, 61% of these championship teams' minutes were filled by players from the previous season's roster. The 2025 Thunder had a roster continuity of 79%, meaning the vast majority of their minutes were played by guys who they purposefully built around rather than outsourcing. In this new era of deep, consistent rosters where chemistry and fit matter just as much as talent, the OKC Thunder have built the youngest, most continuous roster in the entire league while being the best team in the league. But the anomalous nature of this team doesn't end there, because the Thunder's front office has built this team for the future. I think they would be the first to admit that this immense success, although part of the plan, was not expected to come this early. And evidence of this can be found here. Among the championship teams in this era of parity, the 2020 Lakers have had the lowest payroll, winning a title with just the 11th most expensive team in the league. These other rosters sitting well amongst the most expensive teams in the NBA at the time. This year's Thunder roster had the 25th highest payroll in the NBA. This team has their future growth already baked into the numbers. Where many teams of the past had to break up their core or watch key players walk away due to money, the Thunder are one of the cheapest rosters in the league, giving themselves room to offer the highest bid to anyone who may want to leave or inevitably be up for an extension. They say
this is a blessing and a curse, because the only thing that can really stop the Thunder from getting 2 or 3 is really the second apron, and the fact that they got like 7 contract extensions from their rookies that they got to sign, because they got to re-sign Chet, they got to re-sign Jalen Williams, Casey Wallace is going to be the year after them. So the only thing that's really going to like stand in the way is how much these guys are going to really demand on their extensions. Like, of course, Chet and J-Dub are going to probably get their max extensions unless they take their pay cut to stay with the team. But I'm interested to see how that's going to be. And then, of course, Isaiah Hartenstein's contract, I'm pretty sure, has either 2 years on it or a year and a team option on it. So I'm interested to see how that's going to work as well. But the way they structured his contract was really good. because I'm almost certain that he gets a team option. So once his money is like at its peak, they can be off his contract, and then those other extensions are going to be able to come in and not really bankrupt the team, so to speak.
Money can't buy championships, but it sure does help. Fortunately, the Thunder just won one of the cheapest rings in NBA history. But possibly the largest positive indicator for the future of this team, and a reflection of just how abnormal their accomplishments are, is the fact that they are the sole owner of the largest draft stockpile in the entire league, with 24 picks over the next 5 seasons. Now, this has been a big
This is also another reason why they can keep going, because they are so good at drafting, so that maybe somebody wants an extension, but you're not comfortable paying him. You can draft somebody and he could fill their role within 2 years perfectly, or how they've been doing, they can do it within their rookie season, because they draft, like this year they drafted Thomas Sawyer, who I think is a perfect Isaiah Hartenstein replacement, actually not even whether, because he can play right now, and then he'll get the experience behind iHeart, and then when iHeart is ready to be moved on from, he could come in and play that role exceptionally as the defender, as a switchable defender, and as a excellent rebounder and rim protector. So that was like a home run pick. It just feel like no matter what, the rich get richer when it comes to the Thunder.
development over the last couple of seasons, just how good the Thunder are while sitting on 1 million picks. But the Thunder actually winning a championship changes everything and makes these assets look even more unbelievable. You want to see the cost of trying to win now? The teams that are highlighted represent the 8 teams that made it past the first round of the playoffs this season. Nearly all of them near the bottom of the league in terms of draft capital. Even more
got
shocking,
13
when we
picks?
highlight the last 5 championship teams, they are the bottom 5 in the league in terms of future draft picks.
We're not going to see a lot of teams like really mortgaging their future for a superstar anymore, because then they end up, like these teams, having to work with scraps to improve the roster. And I'm mainly talking about Milwaukee, because it feels like Milwaukee's only option nowadays is to trade Giannis for that asset and just do a full reset. It feels like the Lakers are the luckiest team here. Maybe the Nuggets for the simple fact that they have Jokic, but I feel like the Lakers are the luckiest team because they were able to get Luka Doncic, who in theory extends their contending window for 10, 15 years if he stays. And the fact that they were able to get him so cheap is also nuts. With the Warriors, I don't really know how much of the contenders they can be, because they're already on the last legs of that team, with Steph being really the main guy, and then Draymond still being an exceptional defender, but not having anywhere close to the production he had during the dynasty years. And then Boston just took a huge hit with Tatum having his Achilles injury, and now they having to trade Porzingis and Drew Holiday just to get under the second apron. And now they're going to have like this retooling year, so to speak, because their main guy isn't going to be there, and they have to really figure out what pieces are going to fit where when he comes back. But I do like the Anthony Simons trade, because I feel like Anthony can fit in the Joe Mazzulla offense. My only questions is does he have the IQ currently, and is he going to buy in on the defensive end, with him being statistically the worst defender in the NBA outside of maybe Trae Young?
Winning comes at a hefty price, a price that the Thunder managed to completely evade. Outside of OKC, the only team that made it out of the first round while maintaining more than their fair share of draft picks were the Pacers. Every other team that is within vicinity of OKC is nowhere near even competing for a championship right now. In fact, the only reason why a team should even have as much draft capital as the Thunder do is if they have essentially forfeited the next season or two in an attempt to rebuild. Meanwhile, the Thunder just completed.
The Spurs are going to be dangerous after this draft, because not only do they have this many picks, they just had an excellent draft this year. Brooklyn's going to be a mediocrity forever after this draft. And Washington's going to be dangerous in maybe 1 to 2 years. I don't think they're going to be contenders like I think the Spurs are going to be. But I don't doubt it could happen. But Washington is a team that I feel like are going to be like playoff contenders if at least one of their guys takes a jump. Like if Trey Johnson is really that dude, and then say Alex Sarr takes a jump while Bub Carrington also gets better, this team is competing for maybe a top 6 seed because they have a really good coach and they have a really good foundation right now. They just really, and then now they just traded for vets in CJ McCollum and Chris Middleton, so maybe they keep trying to win now. Who knows?
Needed one of the best seasons of all time.
And then hold on, and then for my Pacers, they're kind of going through the same thing with Boston because we just lost our main guy, but I think we can still be pretty good. And if we're not, and say we end up in a lottery, maybe we get some luck and end up with Jaden Quaidance to play the center position. So who knows? I am scared to see how much we're going to give Miles Turner this offseason, though, with him being a free agent. I really don't want us to give him the $30 million there were rumors about,
while simultaneously building a gluttony of assets for the future. This is unheard of. Usually, in fact, almost always, you do not get to be good now and be good later. You have to go all in on one or the other. Except, of course, if you're Sam Presti and the Thunder and you are attempting to do what no team can seem to pull off, be the next great NBA dynasty. But as it stands, the 2025 Thunder have already defied the odds. A young, small market team that was built from homegrown talent, not only stamping their name in every record book, but cementing their legacy as NBA champions and doing it smarter, faster, and about as unlikely as any team ever has.
overall, I think the league is in trouble, like true trouble, because this is the worst this Thunder team is going to be, and it's scary because they already have an MVP, they already have an all NBA guy. This is the worst Chet Holmgren is going to be. They just drafted another rookie, 2 rookies. I'm pretty sure they drafted one in the second round. Case and Wallace is going to get better offensively. Like, it is truly the best possible position you could be in as an organization. And the only way they mess it up is if they just trade somebody out of nowhere, like this guy right here. That's the only way. But if you enjoyed that, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. That's going to do it for me. Expect another upload. I'm uploading mostly all this week and then next week, and then when summer league starts, I'll be on that too. But like I said, that will do it for me, and I'm out.